My name is John Rees. I was the former president of the Carolina Tarbell Bicycle Club. I also was a Chapel Hill Planning Commissioner until recently. I was the chair of the Planning Commission. I was on that commission for 6 years, and I'm currently a board member of the Bicycle Alliance of Chapel Hill. The purpose of the Bicycle Alliance of Chapel Hill is essentially to promote cycling safety, and also to advocate for the town and the state, for that matter, to spend money and spend resources to actually make the town and the area that we live in safe for everyone to ride bikes, people of all abilities. We work alone and with other organizations to push the needle forward for bicycle advocacy and safety. I'm a recreational cyclist also, and that's kind of where I got started in this area in cycling. Recreational cycling is the whole thing where people dress up in like they're in the Tour de France and stuff like that, you know, the high-speed road bikes. But I very quickly realized that I could use my bike for other things. And I actually joined the Planning Commission specifically to give myself a little bit more voice and awareness of how things work in the town. You know, it's very easy for people to oversimplify how difficult it is to get even a sidewalk someplace. It's not as easy as you might think, even if the town has money. There's so many different organizations and municipalities, and there's the state, there's Department of Transportation. Nothing is as easy as you think it's going to be. And being involved and being a member of the Planning Commission actually helped me understand that, understand how the process worked, how it works against us, and also how we can use the process to work for us, especially in ways of getting funding and grants. Chapel Hill is kind of a medium-sized town, and that puts it in a difficult place for getting money. They're not as big as, like, say, Raleigh, so getting some of the federal grants, they're just not big enough. A mile of a greenway can easily cost $1 million. And here we want to build like 20 or 30 miles of greenways in Chapel Hill. And so the town is not going to be able to fund all of that itself. So being on the Planning Commission got me into touch with how town staff work, how the process works, how we need to do a better job with the Department of Transportation, who does have money, even though they say they don't, and then flipping the script with the Department of Transportation on where they spend that money. As you might imagine, most of the money is spent building roads or repairing roads. And then you see these tiny little slivers. And there's a sliver that's literally like the spoke of a bicycle wheel. It's, in that whole pie chart. And that particular sliver is basically the money that Department of Transportation spends on bicycle and pedestrian funding. We need to change that. And being involved in government, being involved in knowing who the players are and how this process works is beneficial to understanding how you can use the system to help everybody. I think the biggest issue is the lack of connectivity. We have greenways, but very few of them are actually connected to one another. So if you've ever used any of the town's greenways, or for that matter, if you used any greenways in most of North Carolina, you might find yourself riding it for a mile or two, and then it just abruptly ends. And so they're not effective ways to get around. They're great for people who live near them. And one of the things you'll notice on a beautiful, especially a weekend day, is most of these greenways have parking lots. And most of the people who are enjoying these greenways have driven their car to it, and they've carried their bicycles in the back of it. And I think it's great that they're able to do that, but no one should have to drive their car to a greenway. Everyone should have the privilege to be able to just walk down their street and in just a very short distance have access to a greenway network. And that's not there. And part of the problem is the Department of Transportation does not fund greenways. They only fund roads, and the only time you'll see a bicycle facility that they do spend money on is if it's part of a road improvement project. So you might see like a road reconstruction, and as part of that, you'll notice that they've actually put a nice multi-use path along it. So the challenges are, we need to both connect communities to these greenways, and we also need to basically build communities that actually are amenable to that. It really comes back down to having homes, built close to each other, having, stores in neighborhoods so that you don't have to go to the edge of town to get groceries. I'm fortunate I have that where I live, but it's an expensive store. You need to have things like food lines and Harris Teeters that are within bikeable distance, like Martin Luther King Boulevard. is basically a killing field for people. There is subsidized housing projects, and it's a food desert. So people who live along this corridor, they go to convenience stores to get things like milk and food, and they have to cross this road. The road has a speed limit of 35 miles per hour, but we all know that people don't drive that speed on this road. What's needed is safe crosswalks, and it's actually the deadliest place in Chapel Hill. Earlier last year, a person my age, a 60-year-old man, was crossing the road and was killed. And the town is working to put crosswalks and safety signals on, but they get a lot of resistance from the Department of Transportation. And what's really surprising, they get a lot of resistance from the neighbors. And this is why you need advocates. We spend a lot of money to widen a road, and we spend nothing on making it safe to cross. People are dying on the street. They need to balance, their delay of like 10 seconds, to get to the store versus the lives of people who have families and, children. It's not fun crossing the street. In fact, it's downright practically impossible. So we need to move away from a car-oriented world. Cars are important. I have a car. I mean, if I have to go and buy like a month's worth of groceries, I'm not going to do it on my bike. I'm not saying get rid of all the cars, but we need to focus our communities more on things other than cars, because they take up a lot of space, they hurt people when people get hit by them, and they just create log jams. Over the past, I'd say 6 years, but even less than that, in my neighborhood, I live in a hilly neighborhood, even around here, I do see a lot more people riding bicycles. One of the ways that I've noticed is the advent of e-bikes. The presence of quality and safe-to-ride e-bikes has really transformed the thoughts that some people have. They're getting less expensive, they're easier to get your hands on, and more importantly, they've become much more safe. So I'm actually optimistic about how these newer bicycles and people's acceptance, especially families, of using these modern bicycles like cargo bikes and e-assist bikes is going to transform how communities that are designed around it operate. Going back to greenways and connectivity, we really need to make communities that focus on that. We have plenty of roads already. We really do. We don't need to build another road. We spent millions and hundreds of millions of dollars over the previous generations. We need to stop doing that, and the money that we used to spend on that, we spend on greenways and connected communities. So anybody who's using the bike and they get frustrated and they think that the town should do something, well, this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to actually get engaged, because the towns are always looking for people to help them. It takes everybody who's interested in moving this forward to engage, even if it's just one day a year. The Bicycle Alliance needs people. We need especially, youthful members of the public. Most of them are old geezers like me. It's important to have people from the university, students, grad students, young professionals. We need people from all walks of life, in all economic statures, to be involved in bicycle advocacy. Because it's a huge equity issue.